not yet qualified. I think we only have like 3 or 4 people overall qualified for the championship next year. But Zoe coming out there with the yellow sleeves. Okay, I have this thing. When people have yellow sleeves, I immediately am scared. I don't know why. Like, I'm never, ever scared of anybody whenever I sit down in a Magic tournament. Like, bring it on, anybody. But if they have yellow sleeves, I feel like there's something I don't understand and they will crush me. I don't know what that is, but do you have any kind of color that makes you scared?
I'm not scared of a color, no. I have recently moved to turquoise as my color of choice for my sleeves, though. They all have to be the same. That's the one rule I have. All my sleeves have to be the same. And one rule I have as well is I do not like being griefed turn 1 when my opponent is on the play, and I have to reveal my hand. Zoe decided to go with just a basic swamp here, keeping the life total nice and high. That's nice. She might know what she's against, or she might not. But looking at the opening hand, double removal spell plus undying effect and second land. This might line up super well for Zoe here, where Tim on the other side just got, is at the mercy, so to speak. I do want to point out in this matchup, the Rakdos Evoke lists, not great game 1. Dalfi Voidwalker, the 2-drop of choice, does not block. It will stop things like Lava Darts going to the graveyard, but it's not a great blocker in this matchup. We got 4 Fort Seizures in this matchup. Not ideal either. Other than that, we do kind of follow up with a lot of Orcus Bowmasters and removal spells. So if the deck can line up well for Zoe here, we might be able to see us squeak out this game 1. But taking our first and second threat from hand turn 1 is pretty rough for Tim.
I was going to say, like, if at least the first game is not good for you, I like starting out with a 4-3 menace and thought seizing my opponent twice, as Tim really doesn't have all that much to do other than, well, he must have found a 1-drop, right? He's going to fetch on his main phase.
I imagine so, yeah. I think you're right. If not, we would be potentially using the Bauble Scry trick and kind of sorting out the top of our deck if it's a card we want, or do we like another random?
I'm gonna say it's Rogaban. Is that gonna be it?
I'm gonna go with something like a Swift Spear.
Okay.
So, where you're at, chat, let us know. You've got about 0.2 seconds to tell us which one you think it is. It might just be a lightning bolt.
That'd be boring, though.
Swift Spear, let's go!
You win. Good card. Get in for 2 damage here with the Prowess trigger. Trying to maybe win. Well, I guess technically, Zoe's still winning the race, but Tim's deck, of course, capable of completing exploding out of nowhere. You know about the plot ability. I've actually wondered, why do I want to plot this creature? And the way I figured it out is basically you want to plot it in case your opponent like to play around sorcery speed removal and then guarantee for a huge explosion on the next turn. Is that how it works?
Well, it does come in with haste as well, so you do get that 1 point damage. But yeah, being able to play it for 0 mana, and then all your spells that turn are going to start triggering it. There's a good chance you're going to get in for a nice 5 points of damage moving forward. So he's going to use the Surveil Land again. We see another one. I think this Prowess deck might be the only decks that don't play Surveil Lands currently in Modern, as well as decks like Tron, I guess. But pits the extra land into the graveyard, doesn't like that. Has got Fatal Push up. Remember, we know about the Fatal Push and Terminate in hand. How can Tim kind of utilize all these spells in hand? Are we just going to plot and get in there for 1, which means the Fatal Push doesn't have a great target? Saving 1 point in life, you really want it for that big blowout turn, but maybe mana is going to be an issue for Zoe if she doesn't have a 3rd land drop, won't be able to deploy 2 removal spells in 1 turn.
Basically, what I'm wondering is does Zoe have any kind of way to stabilize the game, like to put something out there that stops the onslaught of Prowess creatures, or is it gonna be like a game of 1-for-1s until Zoe can eventually ride her bigger creatures to victory?
Well, plot 1 has happened, right? Like, we've gone grief. We've taken 2 threats out of your hand. We've got 2 removal spells in hand for the last 2 creatures that we can see. So Tim needs to be utilizing playing more creatures to the battlefield, and a Dragon Race Channeler is going to be key here, as currently Delirium is free. A Lava Dart in the graveyard will make it 4 at any point that we choose. So as well as Zoe's cards are lining up well, at the minute the way it's going, Tim is 1 creature up, which is going to be key moving forward.
And this, I just love that in the year 2024, Magic technology has advanced so much. Like we've had these crazy cards, but soon to be 3 sets of Modern Horizons. But we still use a card like Lava Dart. Like, the card has been around for so long. When you look at it, it looks so innocent, but it's still good enough to make the cut in a powerful format like Modern, and I love that so much.
Double triggers are going to be huge in this game, depending on. I was about to say how we're going to do it. And look, Surveil Land, even in these aggro decks where every single mana is key, we're still jamming them in there. It's still a half a card. So we're not going to be turning on Surveil just yet. Obviously, if we hit a Lava Dart off the top here, we're going to feel hugely big brained over on Tim's side. I wonder if. Ooh, it almost went. It almost went. Do we like that or not? I think Lightning Bolt is a great find if we can find it, because that'll get the pressure off us. That grief pitting in 4 points of damage a turn is going to start adding up.
Dude, and if you're on Zoe's side of the board, you do not like Tim keeping the card on top, right? That can only spell trouble for you.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to be a Lightning Bolt or another creature. Could be something like a Questing Druid, a way for us to kind of push forward. Let me have a little look at the list here. Which we are playing the. This is the version that Mengucci did well with recently in a challenge. So it's the Tarmogoyf version, just green red. And the one thing we haven't talked about yet with these Prowess decks, and how the first wave of onslaught almost is being dealt with by Zoe. Something like the Underworld Breach game played just resets the board. We get to play a load of spells again in one turn, restock our hand, and that's where we're going to gain our advantage against Zoe, which is kind of playing this 1-for-1 game, as you spoke about.
Yeah, Underworld Breach, probably one of the most powerful cards in Modern right now, right? I just look at the card and I've seen the damage that it has done in basically every single format it was ever legal in. And it's still being legal in Modern. It's kind of funny to me that the way we utilize it is, you know what, we're just going to use it like with a bunch of Prowess creatures. It reminds me very much of like when Necro was a thing and people were like, okay, what are we going to do with like all that extra card draw? Oh, dude, we're just going to cast a bunch of like, Black Knights and Order of the Even Hand and that kind of stuff.
This is interesting. So what has Tim got? Did not plot the Slickshore last turn. Did not cast the Lava Dart last turn. One unknown card that was left on top, remember? It could have been that, or could have been the Fetch Land, I suppose. But what is it that we're not playing anything? It's got to be a Questing Druid. End of turn, Justin Druid. Get the top 2 cards into exile. Can play them to the end of our next turn. And as another threat, we're tapping 2. One of them's probably green, so I imagine it is a Questing Druid. And there it is. Huge card. One of the main reasons you want to be playing green in these decks.
Love how you read that. And classic. Oh, no. You already mentioned it, right? Just like getting everything back, resetting the board in a way, but in a good way for us. Just getting all of our cheap spells, recasting them. Zoe could be in a lot of trouble here. Like, is there any way that Zoe can try to stop this? Probably not, right?
Well, it's like, which one do we stop? It's at the minute, the Questing Beast adds another 2 cards plus another creature. So technically 3 cards per time we use it. The Underworld Breach is normally great when you've got a bucket load of creatures on the battlefield with a Bauble and Dragon Rage Channelers and got a bunch more mana. At the minute, obviously restricted with 3 mana means we'd only have 1 mana to be able to really utilize, probably get like a Dragon Rage plus Bauble. So I think it might be the Questing Druid we see played. Realistically, was looking for something like a Lightning Bolt that turn, a way to stop this pressure. We're at 6 life. Against a deck that also, I believe, does play Lightning Bolts and has things like Reach with Colligan's commanding a Cruxer as well, which I think she's got in hand.
Interesting. So you're saying the Underworld Breach is almost a turn too early because Tim can't really make full use of it if he should go for it?
Yeah, almost like a turn or two. In another turn or 2, if the game's still going, is ideally where we would like it. But being on the back foot the whole game for Tim at the minute has been such an issue. This deck is not designed to be on that back foot. It wants to be on the front foot, putting the pressure on, making your opponent have the answers. Because of that grief, turn 1, double griefing, getting 2 threats out of the hand means that Tim has just had an uphill battle all the way through so far in this game 1.
Curious whether Zoe is trying to figure out whether Tim is going to have enough lava darts to actually kill that grief. Is that what we're thinking about right now?
We're going to have another lava dart to do it, because it's got 3 power. It's got the +1/+1 from the Wicked Roll enchantment that is added to it. So yeah, we're going to fetch end of turn, get ourselves a basic. Makes sense. Keep our life total high. We do. I think we've got a Fable the Mirrorbreaker we can deploy this turn as well. So she's going through her head. How scary is this turn for me? Can I take a turn off to deploy this? Can my life total get reduced from 15 down to 0 this turn? I imagine, yes. I'm just having a look. Things with mutagenic growths in the deck, it's more than feasible that it could happen with lava darts, etc. So let's say we draw for the turn let's go with a lava dart. No, it's going to have to be a mutagenic growth. Mutagenic growth, slick shot into lava dart. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Lava dart 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I don't think so. I could be wrong. But then what happens if we draw a land into breach?
This actually speaks volume about the power of the deck when you're sitting there at 15 points of life, facing down a single Monastery Swift Spear, and you feel like they might actually kill me with Prowess triggers next turn.
I think there's a lethal line if this is a mutagenic growth off the top, because both lava dart triggers can go to the token, which means the Swift Spear will get in, which will have at least 4 triggers on it. 3 triggers on it? 3 triggers on it. So that's 4 damage plus the slick shot with 3 triggers. That's 6, 10, 11, 12. Okay, maybe there isn't lethal. Maybe we are one off. If there's a second Surveil land and it hits a lava dart into the graveyard, we can do it that way. There's so much. These decks are so explosive and crazy. I love Modern.
Dude, but even if Tim is not able to kill Zoe next turn, if he can get her really low, then the Grief might not be able to attack next turn, right? Grief is like producing 4 damage right now, while Tim is still sitting at 5. So not like Tim might not need to necessarily produce lethal here. Trying to figure this out. Tim not using as a Wayland here, just getting Stomping Ground out there. Apparently,
I imagine
probably just like a single one. Yeah, there's only one in the deck seeing it right now. Joey, so he cuts the deck. And is it, you're saying Mutagenic Growth or Lava Dart? That's going to be like those two?
Bauble is not bad, but this slick shot it's in an awkward position. So we've technically got 3 triggers still, but it's just 2 points of damage less than what it was for Mutagenic Growth, because obviously we wanted that 0 mana. Now we got to start looking at the lines of this Underworld Breach. Is that good enough with multiple Bauble triggers? Probably not. We've got the Underworld Breach and a Questing Druid that we can cast this turn. I think. Okay, looks like we're starting off with the slick shot.
Okay,
slick shot comes in. Bauble. We're gonna lava dart first. I suppose we're kind of tight. I kind of like baubling if it was a bauble, but the fact we're tapping mana tells me it's something different.
Well, I think it's probably gonna be lava dart and then flashback lava dart to take out the token, as you like mentioned earlier. And then basically, like we have to hope that Zoe doesn't sit on, like, let's say a Bowmaster to deal 5 damage next turn.
A Bowmaster. Well, I feel like it's well. I'd use, if it's a bauble in hand, I would use the bauble to at least look at what my deck's top card is. Because if it's a lightning bolt, it would change this whole turn up. I would just leave the lightning bolt, draw it for turn, and then I've got a way of getting the grief off the battlefield on the other side. Yeah, it is bauble. So that's a lot of damage. That is 7 plus 4, which is 11 points. And I think we are just going to tap the top of our deck and hope. There is a Cruxer in hand, which with empty. Oh, okay, this is okay.
Okay.
So Bauble. Cruxer makes us lethal because there's no cards in hand to discard. So Cruxer is going to be the 3 points of damage plus the 4 points damage from the grief. We're going to go to a game 2.
Oh, okay. So the way Tim could have potentially played around this is to crack the bubble on his own turn, right? To potentially draw like a non-land card to discard to Cruxer.
Which is awkward against a deck that has Fort Caesars and Griefs in it. So the one-off there was able to get that. That's really close. Just wasn't able to find an unholy heat or find a lightning bolt to deal with that grief. That pressure plus the disruption of all those kill spells was just enough for her to be able to get across the line. So we saw kind of the explosive. It was like, are we dead on the backswing? Is there a way for us to be able to get back into this? The shields were down for that one turn, and we couldn't find it there on Tim's side.
Dude, I'm actually scared to play Modern now. Like, if this is what happens in Modern, where you sit there at 15 and a single Monastery Swift Spear plus 3 points of mana can actually kill you on the next, potentially kill you on the next turn, I'm scared to ever pass the turn again. Is that like a taking turn stack or something? I don't want to give that agency to my opponents. Definitely not.
No, it can do some pretty scary things in that. I think we've got the sideboards though, so we can have a little look at what the players have got, right? So this is Tim's list.
We got Tim Hatch rocking the 4 copies of Pick Your Poison, 3 Torment Script, 2 Magus of the Moon, 2 Destructive Revelry, 1 Blood Moon, 1 Unholy Heat, a basic Forest, and our companion Shiganta. Is this a basic Forest kind of matchup?
I think the only card I like here is Unholy Heat. Like, the other deck on the other side's got plenty of basics in it, plus Blood Moon's going to be a bit too slow. They literally use red mana, and they have ways of generating treasure tokens, so I don't think we want to be going the Blood Moon route. Destructive Revelries, this isn't a Leyline Binding, this isn't a Zoo deck that's got the Leyline and the Guild Packs. Again, not ideal. Magus of the Moon, we've always spoken about, if you don't want Blood Moons, you probably don't want the Maguses. They're not really a graveyard deck, so Torment Script isn't going to do much, even though you did see a Croxa plus, obviously, Grief has the Undying thing. Don't think it's worth the Torment Script, and Pick Your Poison, again, not the matchup for it. If anything, I'd say this is probably the deck we want to be preying upon, and we just it didn't line up well for us here. So just the Unholy Heat coming in, and maybe what do we want to take out here? That's a good question. Maybe the Mutagenic Growths aren't the best. It's great when the shields are down, but if you go Mutagenic Growth when your creature just into a fatal push, you feel pretty bad about yourself. So I feel like I'd probably bring in 1 removal spell, take out 1 mutagenic here.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. It's definitely not the kind of matchup, right, where you want to take out any of your creatures or anything that goes to the board. So let's switch over to Zoe. Let's see what Zoe has to offer for this matchup and whether she wants to make any big changes. She's got 2 copies of Engineered Explosives, 2 Nihil Spellbomb, 2 Legion's End, 2 Blood Moon, a Chalice of the Void, an Angatha's Rampage, a Cursed Totem, Molten Collapse, Shieldred's Edict, Unlicensed Hearse, and another Magus of the Moon. Dude, we see that card in so many sideboards here. So what do you want? Is it like my eyes first go to the Engineered Explosives? Is that what you're looking at?
It's almost the opposite side of that. We know that this is a bad matchup, so we have got a sideboard for it. Like, I love the Legion's Ends, bringing them in. Exiling multiple creatures, great. The Engineered Explosives on 1, great. Almost like a one-sided wrath at times. I love the Hearst, being able to kind of chip away at the graveyard, basically get the Lava Darts out, keep Delirium low, make sure that those late in the game I forgot what they call the breaches don't really have relevant cards in them. We want the Edict effect being, again, removal spell. We want the Molten Collapse, removal spell. The Chalice of the Void, put that on 1. Most of the spells can't now be cast. The Rampage, removal spell again. So many, and we've got a lot of cards that we can also be bringing out. We can bring out the 4 Dolphy Voidwalkers, the 4 Fort Seasons. That's 8 whole cards we can bring out. I'm not huge on the Croxa, even though it won us game 1. Not huge on that. So that's 9 cards that potentially could come out of the main, and we can swap it in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Boom. 9 for 9. Let's go.
Dude, if my opponent's bringing in 9 cards, I'm not feeling very good about this. Usually people can hide it pretty well, right? You do the old 15 in, 15 out. But Zoe bringing in 9 cards here. You already mentioned how the matchup, especially in the first game, should be better for Tim. But 9 cards, and not only like 9 random cards that you bring in because your main deck sucks. Like, this is really good stuff in the sideboard here that we see that could potentially give Zoe a huge advantage in the second and third game.
Well, I'm not even huge on the Orcish Bowmasters either. That realistically, they are just a couple of chump blockers. So you could even trim on a couple of them if you want for the spell bombs to really kind of hedge at that graveyard, plus get you deeper in your deck. She is going to be the control deck in this matchup. She knows her role, and this sideboard is telling me she's fully set for this matchup. And I imagine we're going to just see her killing everything that she possibly can while doing as much chip damage as she can with Grief, and trying to set up for leaving a shield red on the battlefield and ride that to victory.
Awesome. Excited to see that. That should be a really big slugfest here. So you got Natural Stomping Ground on the first turn. Tim trying to figure out no creature on the first turn. Okay, that almost seals it that he's probably sitting on something like a Slickshot Show-Off or like a Tarmogoyf on the second turn. But we will see, right?
Whoa,
and Zoe wants to know. Zoe kept the Thought Seizes even on the draw. So she's looking at 2 copies of Lava Dart, a Mutagenic Growth, a Slingshot Show-Off, Abundant Harvest, and another land. So I guess I at least nailed one of those cards.
I'm surprised Fort Seas is still in the deck. Like, that's obviously a terrible late game. Good in this situation. We can take the only threat. But surprised to me that they're still in the deck. Also surprised that Tim just shocked and didn't have anything to do with it. It's on that turn with that mana. See how we want to.
Is there anything he can represent there that would like make Zoe take a different line? Like
Not
people
really.
don't play like Whale of Summer or something, right?
Well, I suppose it is closed decklist. You could be playing around anything. Lightning Bolt is the thing that sticks out to me. But then you don't want to be killing the grief if the whole grief and dying shenanigans happens, because they're just going to undie it, and you're kind of doing the job for them in that instance. Looks like it's a Dragon's Chandler.
Yeah, that's a big one, right? Because if you can't find another creature, you just sit there making land drops passing back. Like if you had found another pump spell or removal spell, that's the opposite of where Tim wants to be with this aggressive deck there.
And just playing this out as a lonely 1/1. Obviously, we know there's Mutagenic Growth in hand, so it can turn into a 5/5 instant speed, because instant is the one card type missing from the graveyard, I believe. Problem is, Zoe's deck doesn't really have too much damage-based removal. It's a lot of just straight destroy stuff. Unholy Heat is what she sees with the extra card drawn for the turn off Thoughtseize.
Zoe seems to really like those Thoughtseizes there.
Yeah, we see the EE came in, so we did get that one right. Thoughtseize is pulled to the front of the hand as well for Zoe. But what's the take here? Don't want to do in Lava Darts. They're good in the hand and in the graveyard. I think it's the Unholy Heat. Might be my kind of. I'm trying to set a trap here. If I take the Unholy Heat, that tells you, I've got a creature that I want to live, and then you might be forced into using this Mutagenic Growth. The second you use this Mutagenic Growth, I can then use a Fatal Push, but she's just firing off right now. Doesn't want to give any more Surveil triggers and lets him manipulate the top of his deck.
Yeah, and as it looks right now, Tim, once again in a position, he needs to find a creature, otherwise he's just gonna give a ton of extra turns to Zoe, whom we already mentioned, right? Is gonna be the control deck. So Zoe's gonna be happy as long as nothing hits the board. She can just like keep drawing. She's gonna find oh, that's a perfect card. Like if the board is empty, running out the Fable of the Mirror Breaker here, that's perfect.
Absolutely perfect in these decks. So it's kind of an upside with keeping Thoughtseizes in your deck. As I said, terrible late game draw, but Fable of the Mirror Breaker, what doesn't it do? It not only adds to the battlefield, it filters your hand and then adds a powerful creature to the battlefield. So many different modes on it. Again, it went so under the radar. Nobody saw this to be was going to be a staple in every format. Turns out, what do we know? It is a staple in every format that is now legal in. It's won 3 or 4 Pro Tours in a row, but not the last one, because it was banned in standard, so it cannot win the last Pro Tour. But it's won every Pro Tour basically since it's been printed. Super crazy busted card, and we're seeing it here in more action. There it is on the screen for you all at home.
Actually, I wonder how many cards actually have that claim. Like won every Pro Tour it was ever legal in. Dude, that's something. I want to write that on my resume.
That's pretty crazy. That's a good quiz fact to try and find out. Is there any other cards? I imagine there is. I imagine someone was probably going to say Basic Island or Swamp did it, but it just generates so much value and plays into the game plan so well of these like mid-range grindy decks.
Okay, Tim passing there without a land drop and without a creature tells me he probably found another way to pump some creatures.
I'm thinking
Questing Beast. More damage. Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be the perfect draw, right?
Questing Beast.
Trying to get Questing Beast would be something else. So he's just getting out the old hardcast grief, and now's the time. If you got that druid, you got to run it. It looks like you nailed it once again. That's why they call him Tim the Modern Hall. Is that cringy? Very much so. That's why you tune in for me.
Land Lightning Bolt shows a DRC. That DRC is going to go to the graveyard so quickly it's unreal. What have we got? Terminate plus Engineered Explosives. This is not the sequence of draws Tim wants. Really, it kind of plays a little bit like Infect used to in the day when you play against these the old Jund decks where they've got a lot of removal. You want your creature heavy draws more than your spell heavy draws, because you can see what's happening right now. We've got a bunch of spells, but with no real way to utilize the effect of them. We're now we're casting this Questing Druid as the 1/1 that will grow. Surely we're firing that lightning bolt off now, though.
Yeah, when you think about it, a third of Tim's deck is actually creatures. There's 20 creatures in the deck. So he should be able to find some more come time, but time is what Zoe wants, right? Zoe's super happy if Tim just like deploys a creature every single turn. She can probably take it out.
One way Tim can get back into this is with an Underworld Breach. Like, So he's got 5 points damage on the battlefield, but still a nice high total of life for Tim here at 17. If we can, throw the lightning bolt, get the grief off the battlefield, means only 2 damage returns going to be sort of chipping away at us, and that means we're going to have time to set up our graveyard for an underworld breach while making our land drops would be pretty huge. Interesting. We went for the Goblin Shaman token there, though. We've already got a bunch of mana over on Zoe's side. I don't mind giving her an extra treasure token every turn. It is what it is. But now this Fable's kind of flipped. Once that doesn't have summon sickness anymore, we're going to see multiple griefs getting copied, and that is not a place you want to be in any format.
Curious, is there any kind of like big mana payoff that Zoe might be building towards with that Shaman token?
No, like 4 is kind of the max. It's Shield Dreads, it's hard casted griefs. If the Crux is still in the deck, that can also come back at 4 mana. But yeah, realistically, tops out of 4 in this deck. And the only reason for killing the Goblin Shaman and stopping the treasure tokens is stopping 2 spells a turn.
Okay, that makes sense. Tim, once again, put back into position. He's been, ever since turn 1 of the game, trying to find a creature here. He's got the... there should be one druid on an adventure, right? That he might be... No, that was the one that he already cast. Not too sure about that right now, but I think he's... No. Just passing back.
No. I guess the other line... other reason for taking the token out and not the grief is that treasure token. There could be an undying effect on the grief, and then you do kind of get a little bit max punished for it. I think you're kind of getting further and further behind as it is, so I think I'd kind of go for the more high impact line. And if she has it, then okay, cool. My chance of winning this game is just not going to be that high. Tim is in the tank though. Hand doesn't do too much right now. Firing off double lava dart to get one of these 2 creatures off is not appealing for me. But
you know what I think?
Go for it.
I think that could be Slingshot show off, and he's just like trying to get in for a bunch of damage, hoping that Zoe doesn't have any kind of removal. No? Okay, we're doing the thing that doesn't feel good.
It does not feel good. Oh my word. Thing is, if she undines this, it's the same sketch as last turn. We played round the undying effect. This time we're not playing round the undying effect. That's why I think I would have liked taking the grief off last turn. As we see no undying effect, just double lava dart, getting the Fable off the battlefield. So he's just still got all that removal in hand, just ready to go.
Yeah, so it's just fine, right? Trading 2 for 1, even though the lava darts potentially can be flashback later on. As long as Tim doesn't find a creature, this game is gonna be all Zoe's. Like, you need to find something that gets you back into the game, possibly something that has like multiple creatures, so additional druids would do it. But Zoe already like kind of expecting that, right? The only way for Tim to properly come back into the game would be multiple druids.
Well, that and Underworld breaches, right? And yeah. That's why I really like this Engineer Explosion done too, because it means if a breach comes down, we're limiting the amount of spells that Tim will be able to cast because we can crack the EE to get it off the battlefield. It means Tim's limited to basically 1 sorcery speed spell plus instances, which you can't continuously keep chaining off baubles and stuff like that. So having an answer to that, as well as Slick Shot, as well as the questing druids, 2 I believe is the right number to have on that EE moving forward in this game to try and get the dub.
It's the perfect insurance for Zoe there, right? Just gets it out, turns off all the cards you mentioned. Basically, all the cards that Tim could use to climb back into the game, because knowing that Zoe has additional removal spells, Tim can probably read that from her hand as well, and is not too well.
Oh no!
This is what you're doing. Just getting Giganta back into hand. That's like 5 mana, right? So technically, we could do it next turn. Yeah, we can. The 5th land is probably not what you want to see in your Prowess deck, right?
Not ideal, but when it does flood out, obviously this is why lava darts are so good. We've got the redundant lands now to fire them off. I think I would have gone Bauble first before I put the Shigata in hand, though. There's some crazy instances like we could draw a Dryad, maybe. If I draw a Dryad off the top, does that change anything for me? If I draw a Lightning Bolt, if there's a Dryad on top, I don't think I put the Giganta in hand, because then I could go Dryad and potentially something like a Lightning Bolt plus and cast them all at the end of the next turn. Where we've kind of already used our mana, we've kind of bottlenecked ourselves a little bit here. Tim So doesn't want that top card though, by the looks of it.
Just passing back.
What do I know?
He needs. Okay. I mean, there are sometimes corner case scenarios where you fetch in response to the draw on the opponent's turn. But here, so you already mentioned she might have taken out the Orcish Bowmasters. There's not really a good way for Tim to play around that anyways, unless Zoe taps out at some point. But it's not really going to work.
Also, like another reason to cut Orcish Bowmasters in this matchup is Lava Dart, right? Like that card lines up so well as an actual just straight up removal spell against that card.
I can see why the Rectus deck is so popular. It feels like the mid-range deck that can adapt pretty well to basically any matchup.
Oh yeah, it's the Jund of Modern currently. Like it doesn't need the green. It's just
cards the green. I was gonna say
it just doesn't need the green anymore. It can grind. It's got the grief package. It's got the late game package. It's got the removal. It's got the disruption. It plays a lot like Jund of old. Dragon Age Channel is what we find off the top for Tim. Didn't get a good look at what Zoe was finding there though.
So getting for 3, and Tim like pretty low on life at this point, like going down to 5 life. Even if he could come up with a way to maybe try and push for damage, he might be dead on a backswing at some point. You already mentioned the Underworld Breach is one way to do it. Would that be like Underworld Breach and then just run out all your instants to maybe clear the board? It's not the worst thing that can happen to you, right? At least you get rid of the grief and try to stabilize the board that way.
I think I'm fetching there before that draw step.
Mm-hmm,
like if I drew a basic mountain, then I would feel so bad.
Then again, I guess Tim not fully ruling out the Bowmaster there, like going down to 4 life. Well, he's gonna do it anyway, so you got a point.
I mean, like it's happening either way. Like Shigana is not the line here. We can't block because there's menace on that grief. Mutagenic Growth does nothing. I think we might see a double Lava Dart turn to get that grief off the battlefield. It all depends what that card was drawn for the turn. There is a Dragon Mage Channeler in hand, but maybe it's Dragon Mage Channeler into double Lava Dart and try and set up to find a breach. But breach while we're sacking our land is again not ideal.
I wouldn't hate that, but Giganta is just like you're straight up dead, right? If you just got Giganta, am I missing something?
No, Giganta can't block. You got the double Lava Dart.
You got the Lava Darts, yeah.
We know that there's a Terminate in hand, so that's going to be going bye-byes quite quickly. Now the question...
I mean, that's okay. We were not like banking on using that all much anyway. I guess if you want to double Lava Dart, you want to do it on upkeep. Yeah. Make it so that Zoe has less of a chance of drawing an Undying effect.
Yep, so there's 1 Lava Dart. There's 2 Lava Dart. Zoe must be feeling great about this. Like, just double Stone Range yourself. But Grief has already took a card from your hand. You had to use double Lava Dart to kill another one. Then you had to do double Lava Dart plus 2 lands to get this one off the battlefield. Rag around off the top. Oh my god! Visits Lightning Bolt. I'm done.
Lightning Bolt. Come on, let's do it, everybody. Chat. I'm rooting for both players, but
the slicks off the top is also pretty good to hit. Colligan's Command. Colligan's Command. 2 damage to face. That's going to be game.
Never didn't have it.
Still got all D's. Congratulations to Zoe.
Zoe taking the match, moving on to 2-0 on Rector Scam. Probably not the last we will see of her today. Tim moving to 1-1. Playing an amazing deck, I gotta say. I haven't played the Gruul deck myself yet, but if there's any format where you have like an aggressive red-green deck that's potentially like one of the best decks in the format, I want to say, right? Tim, back me up on that. Will, I keep talking about Tim. Will, back me up on this.
Tim will probably back you up on it as well. The interesting bit is there's the red-blue versions that splash a little bit of green to pick your poisons, or there's the straight red-green version that we just seen there. Obviously, one that Mengu's kind of made pretty popular with Tarmogoyf's in. I'm just happy Tarmogoyf is in the format still and people are playing it. You know what I mean? Like, I want that little flashback moving forward. But congratulations to Zoe. Did what the deck did. Really, utilized her decks to the advantage and was able to take the W in that one.
Awesome. I think we're going to move to an interview with Zoe shortly. She's going to be packing up her deck and moving on to our interview area. Chat, if you have any super interest, if you want to know something from Zoe, let us know in chat. You have like something like 10 seconds to give us your best question. Maybe we'll select it. Maybe we'll completely ignore it. We'll see in a moment.
I think she's going to be really happy that deck, the deck on the other side didn't do what it was meant to do. Like we had a creature heavy draw that we were able to grief away game 1, game 2. there was barely any creatures, just lots of spells, and Tim didn't draw the right half of his deck, so she wasn't able to get going. When you're hard casting Griefs for 4 and they're not dying, you feel great over on Zoe's side. Like I said, with the control deck, she was able to get that chip damage in and run away with the game. And she's probably going to be super happy when she sits down now, with able to go 2-0 in this 9-round tournament.
Awesome. Yeah, let's see. Is this, by the way, is this the kind of deck you would recommend for somebody looking to get into Modern? Like somebody who already maybe played a little bit of Magic, maybe some bit of tournament Magic and is ready to move into Modern? Would you put them like on Rector Scam or like Gruul Prowess? Are those two decks that people should be interested in?
I think.
But hold that thought. We have Zoe coming on. Zoe, congratulations. Awesome job. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Awesome. So you're 2-0, 9 rounds, so 7 more rounds at least still to go.
Yeah.
And we got a couple of questions for you. First one coming to you actually straight from chat, but also from us. What are your thoughts on keeping in the Thoughtseizes in this matchup? We were surprised about those.
I think that they're really valuable for stripping his threats, because if I just take away all his threats and like his questing druids, like he's drawing just like removal spells and pump spells. So I think the Thoughtseizes are pretty valuable early on, despite the life loss, because there's not much he could do to burn me out if there's no creatures on the table.
Yeah, and we saw it play out like that very much so, right? When Tim didn't have a turn 1 creature, you must have felt pretty good with those Thoughtseizes not draw.
Yeah. Well, when he didn't have a turn 1 creature, I'm like, okay, he has Slick Shots in his hand, and I'm like, Thoughtseize, take your Slick Shot or whatever.
You would have named it blindly, right? You didn't even need to see his hand. You were gonna
Cabal Therapy.
Basically.
Yeah.
You just want to dodge multiple, right? You don't want to see multiple in Slick Shots in their hand.
Yeah.
It's interesting knowing the role to take in the matchup. Obviously, I was saying that how the Rakdos Evoke deck is kind of the Jund of old. Like it can adapt to be the aggro strategy, it can adapt to be the control deck. In that one, you're the control deck. But I believe people are bringing that sort of deck to try and prey on you, trying to utilize that 1-for-1 removal so they can gain advantage from the questing druids, from the breaches. But as you said, you lined up perfectly. You're 1-for-1 removal, taking out all their threats, leaving them with double lava darts and mutagenic growth in hand when there's no creatures. You're feeling like, oh, this is great, and then able to play your fables and moving forward. So I want to just for a personal for me, I wonder what you were taking out. I think it was the Bulkish Bowmasters if the Thoughtseizes stayed in because they don't line up well against the lava darts. Am I right in that? Or how did you go out sideboarding?
I took out the Dothy Voidwalkers.
Don't block,
because like they don't block. They can make the DRCs like small and answer breach. So I don't know if that was kind of right, but I did it. I just added more removal and went from there.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. It's great, Dolphy, when it's good on turn 2. When you're on the plane, you can stop that graveyard getting huge and stop the lava darts. But later in the game, when you're not having a blocker and you need that blocker, I think it's completely right. Cool, just putting them out.
You know what I'm curious about? That Rector Scam deck, it's kind of like a jack of all trades, if I may say that in the format, right? It basically can do everything decently. It can adapt to like whether it's supposed to be the aggro or the control deck. Is there anything you really want to dodge? Is there any like reasonably commonly played deck where I feel like, okay, pass on that, please don't put me up against that, and we'll talk to the scorekeeper and work it out?
I've seen some of my friends on like an Omnath One Ring pile, and I think that's scary. Just like historically, that's been my enemy, so I don't really want to see that. I feel pretty good against everything else, but off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything.
I like the confidence.
Yeah.
I feel pretty good against everything except for the one deck my friends play.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why you bought the deck, right? Like you bought it this weekend because you thought this is the best deck. It lines up best in the format. You've got all these cards you can adapt on the fly and potentially get yourself into that top 8 and get yourself a W and get advanced to the end of the year championship.
That's the hope.
Well,
awesome.
You're also on that leaderboard as well, right? So you got to get your shot. You're good chance of getting the points to fly up that leaderboard a little bit more for the end of the year.
Yep.
Awesome. So good luck for the rest of the tournament. And yeah, from everything we've seen, we expect you to see you in the top 8.
Thank you.
Awesome. So that's it for us. We actually do have a backup feature match. Oh, awesome. So we're going to move on. After the first match, we got a backup feature match. We got Minion on 4-color Rhinos against Jesse Robcon on Azorius Control. So, well, help me out. I thought Rhinos was dead.
Well, so is Living End, apparently, right? These Cascade decks, they're gone. They can't do it instant speed anymore. They say everyone pack it up and go home. Wait, no, actually, it turns out these decks are still really powerful when we can do it at sorcery speed. This one, though, the 4-color version, well, we're just playing Splinter Twin in it, which, if you're not aware, ladies and gentlemen, there's a card called Leyline of the Guild Pack, now printed in Modern. And on the other half of that Splinter Twin combo is Sire Draco, which means everything will get Hexproof, First Strike, Lifelink, Vigilant, and Trample if we can put them together. But this isn't the matchup for it. Zoya's Control doesn't worry about your life total, doesn't worry about combat damage. We're going to use our sweeper effects. We're going to try and get as many 2-for-1s as we possibly can moving forward. Utilize the one ring and just run away with the game with card advantage here. And in the hands of some powerful mage like Jesse, it's gonna be a bit of an uphill battle. Now we've gone into sideboarding, but it doesn't look like Rhinos took down game number 1.
Oh, it did. Okay, I was just looking at deck list right now, and I felt like, dude, I really don't want to be on the Rhino side here, especially without any of the cute tricks that we used to be able by going for like instant speed Rhinos and everything like that. But Min really only getting to play the mostly fair game here with his creatures, still managed to take the first game as he just passes back to Jesse. Got assembled a Tri-Home, probably going to get another second Tri-Home on the deck. We'll see in a moment, probably. I saw a counter spell in Jesse's hand, some removal spells. Nothing out of the ordinary yet. I think this is pretty much going to be on Min to dictate how this game is going to go, right? Jesse is a control deck in the format, just going to be happy to make land drops and pass and react to anything Min is going to throw at her.
The main card in this matchup, I'd say that realistically, both players are probably working towards trying to cast is Teferi the Time Raveler. If we can get that on the battlefield, Cascade, stop it. Can't cast that spell at instant speed. And that is going to really be a huge boon to Jesse moving forward if she can get that on the battlefield. But being able to get to that point with multiple counter spells is looking pretty good for her. Prismatic Ending, that's a nice 1-mana removal for any Rhinos that do resolve on the other side. I think there was another Prismatic Ending drawn for the turn. As long as she can hit her land drops and be able to start casting multiple spells a turn, she's going to be laughing, as I think that is a Teferi second card down. We'll find out shortly.
Might actually be. That would be a huge problem. So gonna get that extra land in here. We're fetching on the main phase here right now, so there's a good chance this is, as you mentioned, like, going to be straight up Teferi, pass the turn, look the opponent in the face, and say, do something about it.
It's called a force negation check. Do you have force negation? Nope. Okay, my chances of moving forward are pretty good. Doesn't mean it's all doom and gloom, though. We do have things like Leyline's Binding that are nice, clean answers to that. Just the problem is you have to use the mana in our turn going forward, where realistically on turn 3, that is the turn we want to be deploying 8 to 10 power on the battlefield, so we can start like keeping that around and running away with the game.
So here's the force of negation check you talked about. Min, do you have it? You gotta slam it, boy. Here, come on, dude.
Whew.
No! Oh, here, that's gonna be rough, right? Now from here, there's gonna be no Rhinos. How do you even like try to fight over this? Like, I guess getting some kind of creature down to.
Well, I was going to say, Leyline Binding, great answer for it. And a Draco follow-up, that's going to be huge. Now we've dealt with the problem, plus we've managed to add a threat to the battlefield and get it underneath. But Jessie looks like she's got her own Leyline's Binding here. That on the other Leyline's Binding means that the fairy's going to come back down, which means the fairy can bounce the Draco, and we start going for this big song and dance. It's a little bit discounted, though. I realistically should love to have the second land drop here and keep up a counter spell. But I don't think she's got it. No, just a 1 ring drawn for the turn.
Dude, these trades always remind me in a way of like chess. Like takes. Okay, finally I got my Teferi on 1. Now we resume the game. You have this cascade of removal spells on, in this case, enabling another removal spell in Teferi, bouncing back the Draco to hand, but not passing with a counter spell in hand. So Min trying to figure out what do I do here. Probably gonna play the 4th land, ideally 2 spell maybe, if that's in the cards.
I think we've got our own copy of Teferi in the hand, plus Subtlety, plus Tiebind. I mean, all these are good at instant speed. They can no longer instant speed anymore. Here comes the Draco. Here comes a second Draco. Double Draco coming down.
Sure, why not?
Well, this doesn't have an answer.
Ring? She doesn't have an answer, but she's got the 1 ring. So, but a tapped land, another Tri-Home coming down there. She could.
I think there might be another Teferi in hand. Maybe we've got to bounce one of these off. But this is the skill of being a control player, is knowing when and how much damage you're willing to take moving forward. She would love to find a Supreme Verdict on the top of her deck next turn and hardcast that and kind of sweep the battlefield. she's got a hand that's very good against Rhinos, not very good against Dracos, because obviously Prismatic Ending. There isn't 12 mana sources in Magic to be able to cast that one and get one of these off the battlefield. Not yet, anyway.
That would
Not
be
yet.
sweet. So meanwhile, Min getting out the 5th land and probably just gonna get in for a bunch of damage right now. Like, not too much reason to try something here, I guess.
Yeah. I think Teferi's coming off the battlefield. I think that's an easy one. The things we've got in our hand are instant speed. What I playing the Ultawara there, I'm not super big on, especially before combat, because that can actually do something through a Teferi. You know, if the Teferi doesn't die, you can always use the Otawara still. But you know, was able to get away with it there, and then playing it for the 5th land drop, all about that, leaving Subtlety plus Tiebinder up in our hand. Now, how can Jessie respond? 1 ring is going to be it, and this is going to work out really good if she goes to tap it, and we're able to add. Oh, well, now she can tap it in response.
Is that the time? I'm not familiar with the artwork. Is that the Tiebinder? Okay.
Yeah. That's a crazy art of Tiebinder that is now going to be targeting the 1 ring, meaning it's going to lose its abilities.
For as long as the guy stays in play, right? That's how it works for the Tiebinder.
Ooh, that's interesting. Which bit is it? It's basically every time Tiebinder comes down, I learn something new. I think Tiebinder came down on the protection trigger, not the tap trigger. So then we're able to get in for this 11 points of damage.
Oh, that's interesting, because I thought I saw Jessie drawing an extra card off the ring. So you're right. So we basically stifled the protection, right? And Jessie got the extra card, but now we got all the extra damage that we get on the Dracos that would have otherwise happened.
I think we need another ring or a Supreme Verdict off the top. Can use the ring to get 2 cards deeper.
Can you really? I thought like Tiebinder basically turns off ring.
She targeted the protection trigger, not the tap trigger.
Yeah, I thought like it loses all abilities.
I don't think so.
Okay,
you're not targeting the ring; you're targeting the trigger.
You're right. Okay. Anyway, we are clearing the board. We found the Supreme Verdict we just talked about, and on an empty board, there's Subtlety coming in at the end of turn for a little bit of extra damage, putting Jessie under some pressure still.
Well, that means the fetch line can't be cracked, because chat's saying it does lose it still. So
yeah,
we'll find out. Maybe she can't tap it, just taking that 1 point damage. But this means the Subtlety is the 3 points of damage. The 1 damage from the 1 ring will be dropping Jessie to 1, so cannot crack that fetch line at the top of your screen. Something like a Fire and Ice here could also like literally just take this game down.
Dude, it's actually kind of wild when you think about it. Like the control deck is dying with 3 counter spells in hand.
Chat's telling me I'm completely wrong. I got you, chat. I got you.
Yeah, the wording basically is if it counters an ability of a artifact, creature, or planeswalker, it loses all abilities. So you don't need to target the permanent. Anyway, Min actually takes the game, dude. That's amazing. That's so at a match even like 2-0, moving on to a 3-0. That must feel really bad. Like I feel sorry for Zoe. Like if you're the control deck and you're dying with a card, a hand of something like 7 cards in hand, you feel like you must have had some kind of agency to do something differently, even though I can't really tell you what exactly it is.
She had everything she wanted, basically, except for that. I think it was that 4th land not being an untapped land, because then we could have gone like Teferi or binding into counterspell, and then that would have stopped one of the Dracos coming down, or the Teferi next turn. Just like that tri-lane coming in tapped really stops the tempo of her being able to answer the threats 1-for-1 and put on the back foot. And that's one of the good things the Rhinos deck does, is it is so tempo oriented. It gives you something to worry about every single turn, and it's got so much interaction as well to deal with your interaction of what they're trying to do. So able to see it go through. It doesn't surprise me that Rhinos, even with Outburst ban, is still being able to put up these good results.
Awesome. I'm super excited to see the rest of this. We still got at least 6 more rounds today to go, maybe even the entire top 8. Everybody, we're going to go for a very short break. Make sure to hit that sub button, make sure to hit that follow button, and we'll see you right back here at Energy Indy, the city with the largest sports facility in the world.